You're on Pure 24/7 Radio. It's Dan here on the Pure Brunch Show, and time for our occasional brunch blether. And I am very pleased now to be joined by a gentleman we're going to learn about together and hear about some of the things he's been involved. So I say a very warm welcome to Chic Lidstone.
Good morning. Thank you.
Hi, Chic. How you doing?
Very, very well. The sun is shining after a lot of rain, so hey, can't be bad.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's great, and thanks so much for joining us on the show today. We're going to talk about a new book you've got out, your first foray into authorship. But we'll come to that. You can save your plug. We'll make you earn your keep before we get to that. Let's just understand a bit now for full clarity. And I embarrassed Chick with this before we came. I pressed the record button. That we first met about 22 years ago, 23 years ago, when we were both so young. And yeah, we can dream about that bit, maybe not. But at that point, you were in ministry, but that wasn't where you started out. So you tell us a little bit about where you started out, your pre-ministry life.
Oh, pre-ministry life. I started my professional career as a civil engineer, building roads, dams, bridges across Scotland, which was a blast, but definitely called into that. But then the Lord definitely called me out of that.
Hmm.
And then I worked for 10 years in the local parks department in Perth and Kinross. I managed that for 10 years. And that gave me time to actually start to the Lord had always called me to lead a church. So that
Hmm.
gave me time to lead a church. And then after 10 years of that, there was a major outreach event in Perth. And during this time, we were facilitating all the ministers and leaders in the city to come together over a bowl of soup and a roll once a month. And from that fellowship came this major outreach event, and the guys asked me if I would do the organization logistics of it. So I couldn't lead a church, manage a parks department, and organize a major outreach event. Something had to go, so the parks department went,
Yeah,
and that launched me into full-time church leadership,
yeah.
which I did for over 20, I can't remember how many years, long time.
A long time, yes. So you
Yeah.
planted a church in Perth. So that was the
I
Gateway
didn't
Church.
plant a church. I actually helped plant a church in Castle Douglas
Ah,
as a civil engineer when I was trailing around. The church in Perth had already been planted, but I kind of feel it wasn't established.
mm,
So we took a church plant and established it and took it from being a church fellowship, which was lovely and great, to be a missional community.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it certainly helped us at the time once we moved up to Perth. I know you went on to other things from there. So the Lord kind of
Yeah,
led you out of that. Well, I was going to say out of full-time ministry. You still very much stayed within full-time ministry, didn't you? So out of the church
very much
leadership,
so.
but into other things, didn't he?
When I started being a civil engineer, tell me what I'm building, tell me what I'm doing.
Mm,
And so when I was called into church leadership, I remember walking down Perth High Street saying, Lord, what do you want me to do here? And very clearly, um, the phrase that I was working towards, my vision was that the community would say to me, and this will resonate with you, Dan, that the community would say to me, we can't do without you.
mm,
And that was my vision for 20, 25 years, whenever it was. And at the end of that time, we lost our building and didn't know where we would meet, all sorts of stuff going on. And somebody from the community said to me, don't go, chick. You know, community, we can't do without you.
wow.
Then another person from the community, a person of influence, I'm deliberately not naming, said to us as well, please don't leave this area. You understand community, we need you, don't go. And so I realized that the vision the Lord gave me 25 years ago had actually been fulfilled.
Mm,
So I said, what's next, Lord? Because
yeah,
I cannot carry on leading, I'd only be managing. And I cannot lead a church when the vision the Lord gave me has been fulfilled.
yeah.
And He didn't give me a new one for the church. So handed in my notice, and Lord, what we're going to do. And then an organization called Workplace Chaplaincy Scotland came up and they wanted an area organizer. and that fitted the role perfectly. I was always missional. I was always reaching out to the community. And so that role came up, and I had a glorious 9 or whatever years as a workplace chaplain. And
Mm.
that was glorious, and just took the ministry one step forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. And fascinating what you say there, Chick, as well. And using your, I guess your civil engineering background about building and hearing the vision, but that real clarity in you that yes, you had the vision, you had the calling, but then there was a point that that vision had been fulfilled, so it was
Hmm.
time to move on. And there were many who once they've got that calling, then oh, that's fine, that's me, I'm set now, and don't necessarily hear. So there's a real importance in listening for even when that initial calling has changed, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know that I'd come across that when we helped plant the church down in the southwest of Scotland. We were deeply involved, deeply engaged. Then one night during a prayer meeting, all of a sudden I just felt I don't have a vision for this thing any longer. This is very strange.
Mm.
And so we knew we were going to move because I've done what I've been told to do.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was a strange feeling, but once that vision, that motivation, that passion has been removed, you can't stay on because then it's just death,
Mm.
or at least management. And the
Yeah.
church is, you lead a church, you don't manage a church.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you shouldn't anyway.
No,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, okay.
you shouldn't.
Let's not go
And
down that route.
no, exactly. That could open up a whole other door there. And of course, that famous verse from Exodus, isn't it? Without a vision, the people perish.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
you very much lived in that. And now workplace chaplaincy is, and I mean, the Lord has brought us together in various different ways. So
Mm,
kind of
mm,
paths keep crossing. And
yeah,
so I was involved with workplace chaplaincy for a while as well.
yeah.
That whole support for people in workplaces was such an important ministry, wasn't it?
It was immense. And it taught me so much. It took for me as a church leader, church was in, and I was always sending people out. I always saw the community as important.
Mm,
And then I found myself on the other side of the church door, so to speak. And it completely amazed me, actually, the welcome
mm,
in places of work, in work communities, from airports to the fire service to shopping malls. The welcome was incredible. And it taught me that actually authentic Christianity is welcomed.
mm.
And I asked my chaplains at one time, what questions are the community, what questions are people asking? I was thinking of writing an apologetics course. And my chaplains came back and said, the question people are asking is, do you care?
Wow.
They need to know how much we care. They don't care how much we know.
Yeah.
But we seem to want to answer with apologetics. Well, actually, people just need to know that we care.
Yeah.
And when you genuinely care, not so that you can hit them with the Bible verse, inverted commas, but say, I really genuinely care for you, then opportunities will arise and people will ask. But it comes from a place of integrity and authenticity. And it just
Amazing.
blew me away. It was
Yeah.
it was immense.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I mean, we were chatting about this briefly before we pressed the button again. That I tell you, if listeners could hear the conversation we had before we came on air, it's probably a good reason that that wasn't on air. But we spoke about that Great Commission, didn't we? And that
Yeah,
call to go.
yeah,
It's not just to sit back and do stuff. And there's a place for that, absolutely. But the call was to go to where the people are. And as you say, they're very much welcoming us going out and just being alongside them.
yeah. There's one moment I particularly remember. I was chaplain to the firemen, different fire stations, and we had
Mm.
chaplains all across Scotland working in fire stations. And there's one particular day I arrived at a fire station, lunchtime, and the guys were having lunch. And I just popped in, made myself a coffee because I knew the kitchen by now. And they said, are you not having any lunch, Chick? And I said, oh, I haven't got any food. So they dragged the plate out the kitchen and they took food off their own plates and put it on my plate
Wow.
and said, join us for lunch. And that just completely blew me away. Then they said, got any plans for this afternoon, Chick? I said, oh, not really. Could you help us with our training? Yes, all right. We got to rescue somebody from a burning building. So they completely kitted me out, breathing apparatus, the whole lot, and threw me in this burning building, turned the gas burners full up, and
Wow.
then they duly rescued me. But that was a point I thought, you know what? They know I'm a Christian, they know my beliefs, and they fully accepted me.
Yeah.
And the conversations I had and the blessings I could be to these guys was just off the scale
Yeah.
because I cared for them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And actually, I was at a conference recently, and they took, if someone comes to visit you, you offer to make them a drink. When you've really been embedded, it's like, well, you know where the kettle is, and that's when you know you've been accepted. When they say, "Oh, just help yourself," when you're part of the family. So that's beautiful.
Somebody once put it as two different monastic orders. The Benedictine order is welcoming somebody and giving them hospitality,
Yeah,
which is good and right. Or there's the Franciscan order where you have no home and you're dependent on their hospitality and welcome.
mm,
And so chaplaincy in that way is more Franciscan, if you
yeah,
want to put it that way,
mm,
that we have no home, we are a guest in your space.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's fascinating.
Fascinating and very, very, very powerful indeed. And then, so then next up the road for you, as if that wasn't enough and you were looking at putting your feet up, maybe, you landed this great role with Operation Mobilization, didn't you?
Yeah, I was the Scottish rep for 2 years,
Yeah,
which just again took life further forward. I've been in church looking to be missional, encouraging mission. Then I was in the workplace being missional. And then as the Scottish rep for Operation Mobilisation, I had the absolute honour and privilege of covering the whole of Scotland and just encouraging the church
yeah,
to be missional and saying to go and just to envision them and encourage them and empower them. Come on, guys, let's go
yeah,
and let's be missional. And I had a phrase, I don't care with who as long as you do, so just go. And I said, mission is, it starts here in the aisle in Tesco's, or other supermarkets are available in the aisle at Tesco's, and you're looking at the carrots and you see somebody across the bay looking at cauliflowers, and you just you need to go and talk to them,
mm,
and you cross the aisle. That's mission. Whether it's crossing the aisle, crossing the street, crossing a nation, or crossing an ocean,
yeah,
it's been outward looking.
yeah,
Come on, church, this is what we're called to do. If you want to know, if you want to see God's power at work, get out and you'll
yeah,
see it.
yeah. No, fantastic. And that was a kind of perfect role for you to, as you say, you can go out and talk with anyone and listen to anyone and, drink coffee with anyone. And
Yeah,
there was some amazing conversations that happened for you as a result of that, wasn't there? So, but
yeah.
but now you've well moved into what some call retirement, which obviously God still has things in store for you because you've now put I was going to say pen to paper, but finger to keyboard, I presume, to type for the benefit of those watching this on YouTube. You
Yeah.
have now got this new book, Take My Yoke. An invitation into the embrace of grace. And you said earlier on, back in those days in Perth, when you were organizing that gathering, you were looking at leading a church and you were doing the plants and things, and something had to go. And that's kind of, I guess, maybe is even set in motion what you've put into this book of actually we can't do everything. We need to take a foot off. And it says here when Jesus invited us to take his yoke, he was not offering us a new load to bear,
Mm.
which is wonderful. So give us an idea where this book has come from, what you hope for this book, really.
This book has come from my life's experience when I was in one worship event many years ago, and high worship, when you just feel the Lord so close in a tent with thousands of others. And I asked the Lord to embrace me. And clear as a bell, the answer came back, no. And that throws you when God says, no, I'm not going to embrace you. Why,
Mm,
Lord? So I obviously had to get out the tent and do some hard work. What's going on, Lord? And then he told me to go, I felt, go and read Matthew 23. And at the end of that chapter, Jesus talks about, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I would have embraced you like a mother hen embraces her chicks, but you would not. So
mm,
when God speaks to you from scripture, okay, the spelling is wrong, it's CHIC, not CHICK. But when the Lord speaks to you from scripture saying, I would embrace you, but you wouldn't, I thought, eh? He says, you're too darn busy. slow down.
Yeah.
And then very soon after, I had shingles and post viral. And so I actually couldn't work. And dear folks in the church were praying for healing. And I said, thank you for your prayers, but actually, I'm exactly where I need to be. I need to learn and to
Mm.
slow down to know what God's embrace is.
Wow.
That's a long journey, which I talk about in the book. And from that, Matthew 11 came up about Jesus says, take my yoke and rest from me. And I reinterpret what Jesus's yoke means
Mm.
so that we can actually find rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, very, very well thought of by those who've read the book as well. So you have even the amazing Dr. Fred Drummond, head of prayer at Evangelical Alliance, saying there's wisdom, encouragement, and insight on every page, he says. I mean, that's high praise there, isn't it?
That's embarrassing.
It's beautiful. Now, one of the things I love about this book, and it's great to have my copy here, is that it can be used for a devotional. Now, you have done a kind of study guide to go along with this as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But even without that, at the end of each chapter, there's what you call the Waymaker,
The
Waymarker.
Waymarker.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Waymarker.
Yeah.
I've got Waymaker. I was singing that song earlier on.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Waymarker at the end of each chapter. So what's the thinking behind having that in there?
I see the book as very much a journey. So I start off the book, the first chapter is autobiographical, if that's the right word, talking about my journey,
Mm,
not to make it about me, but so that folks can understand the context and say, oh, this is real kind of stuff. And so rather than just read it and being a mental thing, which we tend to read books and it's cerebral, I wanted folks to engage with the journey
mm,
with all of their being. So I'm encouraging them to sit and to reflect and ask God to guide them in their journey.
yeah,
Because I can only talk about my journey. Every one of us is different.
yeah.
So we need to find God and God's rest for ourselves.
Mm,
So this is like a pause button at the end of each chapter. We can just pause and, like in the Psalms, that word Selah
yeah.
comes in. And that means pause, probably pause and quietly think about this. So
Mm.
these are the Selah moments in this book.
Wonderful. Yeah. So you give guidance there on how people should just sit, reflect, and pray
Yeah,
before they move on each of these
yeah,
chapters, which is,
yeah.
I think, really, really helpful. So you've got a study guide to go with this as well, a 6 week study guide accompanying. So is this something then that churches could use in their small groups, or what's the thinking for that?
Absolutely. I produced the book. Then folks said, have you got a study guide to go with it? And I thought, oh, I hadn't thought about that. So, yeah, it came together fairly quickly.
Mm,
It was just taking the journey of the book, not regurgitating it, but helping folks to engage with it and to discuss it. I find historically, if I've read a really good book, I want to talk about it with other people
yeah.
because it's so much richer and get their input.
Mm,
And so I found book studies over the years, book groups really, really helpful. And also, bizarrely, if you're in a Bible study, folks tend to be slightly reticent about what they say because they might get it wrong because you're looking at the word, which we hold in high regard.
yeah.
But if you're talking about an author's work, a book, you can actually be a lot more honest and a lot more open in your discussions.
Yeah.
So I was wanting, but you're still discussing about the Bible. It's still biblically centered,
Mm,
but I find conversation flows a lot easier because people aren't frightened to say their opinions.
yeah.
So I wanted to think, well, let's provide churches or small groups the opportunity to work through the content of this book, but discuss it and digest it as a group. And yeah, there's a richness in that. And there's also some extra material in there, which since writing the book came to mind. I thought it's an opportunity to bung it in as well.
Wonderful. I'm gonna have to get the study guide as well to go with this. So where do you see this, or who do you see this for? I mean, there's a bit right at the start of the book that says who it's for, but rather than just
Yeah.
me read out words, who do you see as this book being for?
I found that there was a disconnect, dare I say, between Jesus's promise of rest and the normal Christian leader, whoever, experience.
Mm.
See so many Christians who are just exhausted,
Yeah.
who are running around, and faith has become a duty. And that's not what Jesus called us for.
Mm.
And I just felt that a large part of church, there's a guy called Steve Aisthorpe before COVID wrote a book called The Invisible Church, where he argued that 25% of Christians don't go to church because they just can't cope with it.
Mm.
I think that's maybe even increased since COVID. I certainly know many folks who still love the Lord, but just can't cope with church.
Mm.
And I get that. So I kind of felt that we need to have a fresh oxygen
Mm.
put into life's faith. And when I wrote the book, there were moments when my breath was literally taken away, and I was reduced to tears to see the freshness of God's grace and the expanse of it.
Wow.
And I just long for leaders who've got tired and weary, are on a slog, for all Christians to have that fresh oxygen of grace, that moment which takes your breath away.
Yeah.
And what Jesus means by rest is is not just taking it easy for a day. It's life changing. In fact, it's creation changing. What Jesus says about his rest is actually the promise for all of creation. In Romans 8, creation waits on tiptoe for the sons of God to
Mm.
be revealed in the rest that we have. And when we enter that rest in creation, that promised rest in Genesis, then I believe that creation will enter its rest.
Mm.
So when Jesus says, "Come and learn from me, and you will find rest," that is so big and so huge, so creationally impacting that, come on, church, this is what you're called to do and be.
Mm.
It's not about rotas or duties, it's about living fresh and large and expansively. I could go on and on and run out of adjectives.
Yeah, and this is why I always love chatting with you, Chick, because there is always so much inspiration and encouragement for the church, and not the big finger pointing, but that literal encouragement.
Yeah,
And yeah, there are many that are on their knees but not in prayer in ministry. Who are
yeah,
really
yeah.
struggling at there. And I would even think of some back in the office for Pure 24/7 Radio. The rest of the team are listening. They maybe need to take some of this as well, delivering
It
this global
amazes
ministry.
it amazes me how many people say, "Oh, I need to hear this. I need to hear this."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
many people say that, and that just, okay. Well, Lord, I think you've given me something here.
yeah, yeah. And I definitely raise my hand to that. That I need to hear a lot of this as well. Now, I mean, as someone, I mean, there's far too many words in here compared to pictures for people like me. But there is a lovely picture on the front of the book, and you're saying there's a story behind the cover image as well.
I was looking for a picture for the cover. I'd been given an image from Central Asia, a picture painted for me, and I gave that to the publisher, and they said, "No, no, we can't use it." So we're walking around the range one afternoon looking for a frame for this picture, which they couldn't use. And a dear friend, an old friend, we bumped into, hadn't seen him for ages. He's an artist, an illustrator.
Mm.
And we explained what's going on. Oh, let me have a go at this. So he went away, and a fortnight later, he emailed me an image which he had created, and it just blew my socks off.
Yeah.
I emailed my publisher, and they said, "Oh, we got lots of people who say they got a friend who's an artist." Don't know. So I emailed them a copy of this image, and one word answer came back, "Wow." And I've had people look at this image and they just burst into tears.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. So even the image in the front of the book is miraculous. It's God given.
Yeah. Yeah.
So John Halverson, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, and as you say, it can be the embrace of God to us.
Mm.
You could maybe see that the father with the prodigal son, but it's the eyes of the people looking on and seeing that as well that are really powerful and seeing
If
what's
if
happening.
if you think about it, Dan, you said the embrace of God. Jesus says, "Take our yoke upon us."
Mm.
And I asked the question, what was Jesus's yoke? And we interpreted this as a yoke for oxen pulling a plow. That's our allegory. And it involves work.
Yeah.
But what was Jesus's yoke? What yoke did he have? And I argue that it's that voice from heaven after his baptism. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. That was Jesus's yoke. And so when he says, take my yoke upon you, then he says, take my Father's good pleasure,
yeah,
and work into that.
yeah,
And that changes everything.
yeah. Amazingly so. So yeah, as it says, if your faith has lost its freshness, if you feel worn thin by the demands of life and ministry, accept Christ's invitation to discover true rest in his gentle, freeing yoke of grace. The book Take My Yoke, from Chic Lidstone, and you can get it from chiclidstone.com or instantapostle.com. And other places as well that get enough publicity.
Yeah.
But they're
And your
they're
local bookshop, your local Christian bookshop.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Never forget. Big fan of local bookshops, certainly local Christian
Yeah.
bookshops. So you can get it from there as well if you are blessed to have one of those near you. So is this the whole start of an author journey for you then, do you think? Oh.
I honestly don't know.
Mm.
I've written it. I felt I just I've given it to the Lord, and it's up to him what he does with it. I mean, it's something I'm passionate about, but I can't make it happen. The Lord needs to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that
But
makes sense. I'd love to go anywhere and everywhere to talk about it, obviously, because I'm passionate about it.
yeah.
But I'm not going to push myself. I'm not going to say, you got to have me to your church. I don't do that.
No.
But yeah, we just love getting out to play, as Izzy, my wife, and I call it.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, Chick. Well, listen, we could talk for forever,
Yeah.
but I do have a radio station to do here, so there are certain times we need to hit, and I'm probably overrunning all of those right now, but that's absolutely fine. Listen, as always, thank you so much for your wisdom and your insight, and people can watch this back again on our YouTube channel if they want, and head to chicklidstone.com to get this book and the study guide. And I think there are many people that need to be reading this right now. And thank you for listening to God's call as always, and to sharing this and for being with us today.
Bless you, Dan. Bless you. Thank you.